Hello guys, today we're going to study rational expressions. So what is a rational expressions? If you look like this definition, alright, the rational expressions is just the quotient of two polynomial. Alright, so if you think about this in a different way, it's an easy way to think. If you think it looks like a fraction, pretty much. The only difference is to have a variable in numerator or the denominator or both. Okay, so let's take a look our example 1. So example 1 is asking us excluding numbers from domain. When we ask about this, all you have to do is just set the denominator cannot be 0. The reason why you all learned in grade school, pretty much in elementary school, when you have fraction, the denominator cannot be 0. So here's how we do this example. Let's start with part A. Alright, if you look at part A, like what I said, all we have to do is set the denominator, right? Cannot be 0. So if you add to both sides, alright, you're gonna have x cannot be 2. So that is your first answer. This is really straightforward. Part B. So you really don't care about what's numerator. You only care about the denominator cannot be 0. Cannot be 0. When you set this up, you're going to have x squared cannot be 1. Alright, so then after this you take a square root of both sides. Okay, you take a square root of both sides. It look like this, but do not forget one thing. One thing is you have to make sure, alright, you have to make sure you're gonna have a plus minus sign right there. You're gonna have plus minus sign right here. That's the part you do not forget. Alright, so make sure you don't forget about that. Anyway, so then you're gonna have x cannot be equal to positive negative 1. So your part B is done. Let's look at part C. Part C look a bit really long. So again, it's the same concept. All you have to do is set the denominator cannot be equal to 0. So then all you have to do is just factor this, right? Factor this. It cannot be 0. Then you solve it. So in Session P5, you learned so many about factoring, so we're not going to go really detail about this part. So when you factor, you're going to have x plus 6 and then x minus 3. Alright, so the two numbers multiply together give you negative 18, add together give you positive 3. And then you set this to, right, x plus 6 cannot be 0 or x minus 3 cannot be 0. So you solve this, you're going to have x cannot be negative 6 or x cannot be 3. Okay, then you're done. It's very, very straightforward. Alright, let's look at example 2. Okay, example 2 we have here. Here we have example 2. Alright. Example 2 is to simplify the rational expressions. Alright, simplify the rational expressions. So we're coming back, and then what we're going to do is, I'm going to start with part A. When we simplify the rational expressions, alright, I'm going to write right here. It's very straightforward. You're going to have step 1. Alright, step 1 you're just going to do is factor. You're going to factor numerator, you factor denominator. Alright, so let's work on step 1. So we're going to factor this, factor numerator. We know the numerator both they have x squared. So factor that out, you're going to have x plus 1 left. Alright, and then it's going to be over x plus 1. That is our step 1. And then step 2. Step 2, all you have to do is just going to be canceling. Alright, you're going to cancel. So in here, we're going to look at, the denominator we cannot cancel. No, the denominator we cannot factor anymore. So here we're just going to cancel this part. And then all we have left is x squared. And you're done. Alright, so let's look at part B. Part B, if we look at this, we have x squared plus 6x plus 5 over x squared minus 25. So we follow the same steps. Well, step 1, what we're going to do is we're going to factor the numerator, which will give us, that will be x plus 5. We'll factor this, and the x plus 1. Alright, we factor the numerator. And then we have to factor the denominator. The denominator is just the form of, if you forgot, okay, I'm just going to put it right here. If you forgot, the denominator is just going to be the form of a squared minus b squared, which will give us a plus b and multiply a minus b. Okay, so that is for our denominator, because we can rewrite it as the form of x squared minus 5 squared. So you're going to have x plus 5, alright, x minus 5. That is this part if we rewrite it. Alright, we rewrite the 25 as 5 squared. So we follow this formula right here. They're going to have x plus 5, x minus 5. That is our step 1. Then we have step 2. Alright, step 2 is just a canceling. Alright, we're going to cancel here. We're going to have x plus 5, x plus 5. We'll cancel that out. Then what is left over is x plus 1 over x minus 5. So that is what you get. For some students, they always want to continue for some reason. You have to be really careful, alright? You cannot cancel this x right here, alright? Because you're going to have subtract and the addition, right? This is a subtract. So you cannot cancel this x. You're done. The only time you can cancel is the relationship here is multiplying. That's the time you can cancel. You are done. Do not do anything extra. Okay? Let's take a look at our example 3. Okay. Here's our example 3. Example 3 is asking us to multiply the rational expressions. So when you multiply the rational expressions, is really not that bad. Alright, so what you do is, again, your step 1 is factor. It's similar to the before. Alright, similar to example 2. Your step 1 again is a factor. I'm just write it right here. Later you can look at your notes. So for x minus 7, we cannot factor. We'll leave it alone. Okay. Also, we cannot do anything here. X minus 1, we'll leave it alone. And now we'll look at this part. X squared minus 1. You're going to factor this. It's the same form as a squared minus b squared. So we're going to have x plus 1, x minus 1. Okay, that's how you factor this. Then that will be over 3x minus 21. We can factor 3 out. What's left over, you're going to have x minus 7 left right there. Right? So that is step 1, factor. And then step 2, we want to do is cancel. Right? Cancel. So when cancel this, let's see, let me change a different color. Let me cancel, use the green. Let's see what it looks like. So we're going to cancel x minus 7. Alright, x minus 7. We cancel this term. Then we also have to cancel another term. Alright, we're going to cancel x minus 1, x minus 1. So that is gone as well. Once we finish to cancel those, Alright, so I didn't change the color. Once we cancel that, what we're going to do is, if you look in the end, or step 3, we're just going to multiply whatever's left over. Alright, we're just going to multiply. Whatever's left over here, the numerator, what left is x minus plus 1 actually. And the denominator is just going to be 1, 3, 1, and multiply together, it's just going to left over to 3. So then you are done. You finish multiplying. Okay? So for this case, alright, you gotta make sure you also know the fact is when denominator cannot be 0. Alright? So we're gonna just write it right here. We're not looking the last part. We're going to look in the original question. If they also ask you to exclude the numbers from domain, alright, just like example 1, we have it right there as x cannot be 1, alright, that's from here, and x also cannot be 7, alright, x cannot be 1, x cannot be 7. So make sure you actually exclude those numbers. You go back to the original question. Alright. That's how you multiply a rational expression. You're basically doing step 1 factor, then you cancel, then you multiply whatever's left, numerator and denominator. Let's look at example 4. If you think it is too fast for you, okay, all you have to do is you just go pause the video and then play it slowly. Alright, let's look at example 4. Okay, example 4 we have here, we're going to dividing the rational expressions. Okay, we're dividing the rational expressions. In this case, if you think about, when you're dealing with the fractions, I understand a lot of you do not like fractions. Somehow, anytime you have fractions, you just, have this personal feeling with fractions. But really not that bad, okay? Let's go ahead and look at this example 4. When you divide something, it's the same thing as you multiply the reciprocal, okay? First, we're going to turn this dividing to multiply, because we already know how to multiply from example 3. So let's start step 1. You just multiply the reciprocal. Alright, x squared minus 2x minus 8 over x squared minus 9. We're going to multiply the reciprocal, that will be x plus 3 and over x minus 4. Okay, so that will be the step 1, multiply the reciprocal. And then the step 2, this is everything else is exactly same as example 3. Okay, exactly like example 3. So we'll go ahead and factor. Okay, we're going to factor this, that will be x minus 4. Alright, and then we have x plus 2. And then we're going to have the denominator. If I factor that, that will be x plus 3 multiply x minus 3. Okay, so that we factor the first rational expression. Then we multiply the second one. We cannot really factor, we're just going to write it down. Alright, we're just going to write it down. So once we have this, and then we move on to step 2. We're just going to cancel the part we could. So let's look at this. We're going to cancel some stuff out. Okay, so this time we'll use red. So we're going to have x minus 4, they're gone. And then we have, let's try blue. We have x plus 3, alright, x plus 3, they're gone. And then we look at anything else we need to cancel. There's none. Okay, So then what we're going to do is whatever is left over, the numerator, that will be x plus 2. The denominator, that will be x minus 3. But look again, okay, there's nothing else we can do. We cannot simplify it further, so you're done. So that is your final answer. And then let's just go a little bit further. We'll make sure we know we have to exclude, alright, a couple numbers. From here we can see that will be x cannot be negative 3. Alright, x cannot be 3. Also x cannot be 4. Again, I just look right here, because if I look back right there, I have to solve it. Here I already factor it. I just use, I know the fact is that the denominator cannot be 0. That just go back to example 1. Right? So you have those 3. We have to exclude it from the denominator. Alright, so if you want to write it down here, the steps, you can write it down. We have step 1. Okay, I'm going to write the step 1. Then step 1 just going to, we have to multiply the reciprocal. Alright, so if I want to write it down, just multiply the reciprocal. Okay, sorry, that was awful handwriting. Let's go ahead, look step 2. We just have to factor. Okay. And then step 3 is just going to be cancel, right? Cancel. And then step 4 is just whatever left over, you just multiply them, alright? Whatever's left over. So let me just erase, there's little arrow right there. Do not like this part. Let me just fix that really quick. Cancel. Okay, better. That is example 4. Again, the step is, once you know how to multiply, you pretty much should know how to divide, because the only difference is the step you have one extra step. Multiply the reciprocal. You turn the division to multiplication. Alright, let's look at example 5. Let me move this question a little bit. I have to make more room. Example 5 here, I have subtract the rational expression with the same denominator. Okay, let's go ahead do this. So we have a subtract. Okay, it's exactly same as the fraction. When you're dealing with a fraction, if they have the same denominator, all you have to do is just subtract in the numerator. So in this case, many times, even though it's kind of straightforward, often I have students just make a mistake, like really simple mistake. Because it's subtract, okay? Because it's subtract, you have to put this minus, then you have to put this as a parenthesis right here. Parenthesis for x minus 2. Okay, you can write this under one denominator because they have the same denominator. Let me just rewrite this really quick. So you have then, however, when you subtract, you must put that. Really important. Alright, you must put this parenthesis. Let me change the color. Parenthesis, I want it to be really red. Okay, so be careful on that one, because you really make a mistake if you don't, you don't do that parenthesis. Anyway, so once we finish that part, so what we're gonna do is we're just gonna take it out. Alright, take it out from the parenthesis. That would be minus 4x, minus become positive. That would be plus 2. Okay, so once we have this, so what we're going to do is, we're just going to, right now we're just going to write it down. Alright, x squared plus minus 9. So once we have this, we're going to collect like terms. You're going to have x, you're going to have plus 3. Okay? So remember, step 1, when you have subtract the 1%, you must put the parenthesis there. And then take it out from the parentheses, just simplify the numerator. Once we simplify the numerator, we're also going to factor the denominator. In this case, we're going to have x plus 3 and x minus 3. Okay? So once we have here, the next step is straightforward. Once you have here, alright, so we're just going to see anything I can cancel. In this case, I'm just can cancel the x plus 3, x plus 3. They're going to be gone. So the numerator become 1, denominator become x minus 3. So you're done. Okay? Again, if this question is asking you to exclude the denominator, then you just have to write it. That will be x cannot be positive 3, x also cannot be negative 3. Alright, because when we factor this, we realize the denominator cannot be 0. So that's the numbers. So you're done with example 5. Okay. Let's take a look at example 6. Alright, example 6 is a little bit complicated. So it's subtracting the rational expressions having no common factor in their denominator. Okay, so for this case, what I want to write down right here is, that will be something you can use almost like a formula. Alright, so if I have something like this, okay, a over b minus c over d, which is going to give you a multiplied d minus b multiplied c over b multiplied d. Okay, this is something you could just remember it. You could just remember it. Some formula is really useful. Okay, let's take a look. We have different denominator. Alright, different denominator. So if I follow this step right here, that formula right there, so I can actually trade trade A equal to x plus 2, B is equal to 2x minus 3. Then we just almost look like a cross multiply, right? That will be A multiplied B, A multiplied D minus B multiplied C. Alright? So let's do this. So I'm just going to, maybe I can highlight this part. No, let's just do it. Okay? If I compare this, that will be my A is just x plus 2, right? And then my D is just going to be x plus 3, right? And then I'm going to use, here's the subtract. Alright, we're going to subtract B, that will be 2x minus 3, and C is my multiply 4 over, it's just B multiplied D, that will be 2x minus 3 multiply x plus 3. Okay, so that's what we have so far. Let me just highlight it. Okay guys, I highlight this for you and just you can see how this formula works. Okay, so hopefully that doesn't confuse you. If that confuses you, then just forget about it. Just do the way you can remember better. So anyway, once we have this, alright, so all you have to do is we're just going to be doing multiply. You can use your FOIL method, whatever method you want to use. So here I'm just going to go ahead, work on this. You just have to do step by step like this. So we're going to have x squared, and then have 3x, and then have plus 2x and then plus 6. Okay, then for the second part, we're going to be subtract, or remember that's a subtract between. That will be, right here, that will be 8x minus become positive, alright, plus 12. Then there's a whole thing over, alright, there's a whole thing over 2x minus 3, and then x plus 3. So once we have this, we're just going to collect the like terms. Okay, we have an x squared, that's the only thing I have, right? X squared. Look at 3x, 2x, and then we have minus 8x. That will be 5x minus 8x give you negative 3x. Then have plus 6 plus 12 give you 18. Okay, then 18 over 2x minus 3 multiply x plus 3. Once we have this step, okay, you have to remember we have to go a little bit further because we want to see if we can cancel anything. But before we can see cancel anything, we have to factor this. That will be x, right? X plus 6, or no, it's not plus 6, that would be minus 6. Alright, and then we're gonna have x plus 3. Okay, just 1 second. Alright guys, I saw that I can cancel something, if I could factor it. But the thing is, if you look right here, I made a little mistake right here. It's a plus 18, so I cannot use negative 8 plus 3. If it's a subtract 18, that means I have to factor it and then cancel it. In this case, I cannot cancel it. Alright, so since we cannot cancel it, so all we have left is, that will be your final answer right there. Okay, so again, make sure you understand this. Because it's a plus 18, I couldn't factor it. That's why I have to leave this alone. So that is the final answer. Okay, alright, so let's just make sure to write it down. X cannot be, alright, x cannot be 3 over 2, alright, and x cannot be negative 3. Where that come from? So come from here, right? If you got confused, where that come from? Because if I set this up, cannot be 0, I solve it, you're gonna solve it, it's gonna be x cannot be 3 over 2. Right here, that will be the x plus 3 cannot be 0. And then we're gonna have x cannot be negative 3. That's where that come from. Okay? Alright, so for this video, let's just stop right here. Let's take a break and then we can work on number 7 and a little bit more.